right, ladies and gentlemen around the Delaware Valley, welcome to Top Lawyer with Sean Quinn here on WWDB Talk 860. We've got a fantastic broadcast, so much to talk about, lots going on not only around the city of Philadelphia and the state of Pennsylvania, but across the country. Today's going to be a passionate discussion. Sean, how are you, sir?
I am well, Joe. It's always, well, I'd be lying if I say it was good to see your face, but, you know, somebody has, some mother, only a mother.
Whoa, what is he laughing at?
Hey, listen, you know, he's a smart guy, so he obviously has eyes and can sense the same thing. But listen, Joe, it is always good when we have our monthly get-together to chat and talk about all things chaos in the world, sports in the world, all these good things.
Absolutely, no question about it. And we typically start off. I know this is a great time of year for you, Sean, because pitchers and catchers are starting pretty soon.
Yeah, this is the last time we talk before pitchers and catchers. So, but you know, this is, you know, we'll carve in a little time for sports today. But we have a great guest, and last month we got to touch upon some. Obviously, it's immigration is an interesting topic these days. But we have the other half of the equation. Last month we had Renee Heichel talking about the interplay of immigration changes and the chaos that has ensued as it relates to individuals. And John, you probably know Renee.
Yeah.
And she was talking about it from the individual side and seeking asylum and those folks that are and John's got a different side to the equation when it comes to the businesses that he represents. And just for a little background, John is the U.S. director of essentially an international law firm, Green and Spiegel. He's got offices, his headquarters here in the States is right here in Philadelphia. He's got a Canadian office up in Toronto, and I believe the European office is in Amsterdam, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
All right, and John's almost been doing this as long as I have. We've almost been in the game for as long as each other. He's got a little less gray hair than I do. So, but you know, listen, John's got all, you know, he's a stud in this business. He's one of the premier attorneys representing businesses as they relate to immigration issues in America. And in fact, we came to be in contact because of an immigration issue that my firm was having. We met a decade ago when we had an employee coming in from Australia, and we needed to navigate the kind of interplay of visas and the different things. And it was the wild, wild west to me. And I always say when a lawyer trusts you to do the work, you know you're top notch. And John's one of the best in the business, and I want to welcome him here. And not only is he one of the best in business, I consider him a good friend.
Yay, thanks, Sean. Feeling is 100% mutual. And Joe, I like you too. I remember we hung out once not too terribly long ago, pre-pandemic days.
That's right.
No, it's great to be here. Certainly a topical discussion. I'm glad you chatted with Renee. She's awesome. She knows her stuff. And, you know, certainly it's an evolving topic. I think when you have a chaos administration that is intentionally operating from a chaotic perspective, it's hard to really give that predictability that workers and employers want and crave and need to plan and develop a workforce. And you know, Sean, the challenging thing is in a lot of ways, this is contradictory to a lot of what the administration has said their objectives are as it relates to bringing manufacturing back, getting investment in the country from foreign companies. And I think that dichotomy between the desires of commerce and the immigration hawks is really coming to a head in a lot of what you see. And I'm looking forward to unpacking it with you a little bit today.
Yeah. And I always said sometimes things are bipolar and sometimes we move straight to schizophrenia. And when it comes to policy decisions, and I think, you know, one of the things that, as we're both business owners and involved in, one of the things that businesses love is predictability.
Yeah.
Right. We love stability. We like to be able to have that. And I'm sure, while what we see on the streets as it relates to ICE and detentions and all that stuff, tell me about some of the challenges you've had to navigate with your clients who are Yeah, maybe take us into like the type of clients you represent
Yeah.
and the difficulty they're having in terms of navigating this, sometimes schizophrenic system.
Well, it's a really good. So we represent employers like across the board. I try to be pretty agnostic when it comes to that sort of thing. We represent hospital systems, universities, a lot of sports teams. We represent tech companies, manufacturers, farmers. And the constant theme, if there is one, especially since everything sort of erupted initially in places like Chicago and Los Angeles and then moved to DC, and obviously Minnesota has just brought this all to a real forefront. The common theme is fear. Fear. And it is a daunting proposition when you are dealing with the emotional quotient of something that is realistically and statistically very small of occurring. You know how they call us counselors, and I feel like for like really like the first time in my practice, it's not because I'm counseling law, it's because I'm counseling emotion. And managing that fear so that individuals can feel comfortable doing their jobs, so that companies can feel confident in their investments, that's been the trickiest thing to deal with. That's been the most consistent and constant quotient amongst all employers. Now, the degree and extent of liability and exposure certainly varies depending on industry. And the reality of how heavy you have to plan, whether it be for raid prevention or what we are starting to refer to as contingency planning. Like, what if something does happen? What is your plan so that your business can continue to operate? Is something that has become like a huge part of the practice. And I try to balance a realistic perspective as to what could occur and then really getting people planning for what might happen so that if it does occur, you're not caught flat-footed. So you're not like, instead of like, when we're faced with danger and challenges, we automatically go to this like fight or flight response. It's like in our DNA.
Yeah.
That's why you see so many problems at these raids, because like ICE agent comes and all these guys like jet out the back of the building, and now you have probable cause and everybody's rounded up, and it's a huge, to remove that instinctual human reaction when faced with danger, to get them to be like pragmatic in their approach, is really the primary objective. And Sean, it's crazy, but even within the legal immigration system, we're facing huge challenges. And it's not just people who don't have status that are asking these questions.
That's
It's green card holders, it's U.S. citizens. And it's heavy.
and I would imagine, I mean, the misnomer that we've been fed by the media is the old "do it the right way, come the right way." I would imagine the clients that you're counseling have done it the right way, or at least for the most part, particularly your corporate clients that maybe are trying to, maybe they got workers with paperwork. Some folks maybe are here on temporary protected status. Some people maybe are here legally or came legally, maybe overstayed a visa. But it becomes difficult, I can imagine, for employers that have tried to dot the I's and cross the T's, and then those T's get erased.
Well, you raise a really good point. You also like address actually the fundamental flaw with the immigration system. So like, if I can just level with you.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to talk about the wisdom of the policies. I have my own personal opinions. You do. Like, we're talking about the effects. But I want to be clear. This is not like a Donald Trump issue. This is like a country issue. This is something that has existed since the last time we had comprehensive immigration reform in 1986.
Yeah.
Historically speaking, the Republicans have been more pro-immigrant than the Democrats. The Republicans, who want to favor commerce, have always been more pro-immigration. It got flipped on its head. But the dirtiest little secret about our entire immigration system is that we don't have a legal mechanism for people to do a lot of the jobs that we ask immigrants to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We don't have a dishwasher visa.
Well, hold on. Can I jump in there?
Yeah, sure,
Yeah.
John.
Guess what? I've been saying that. So let's take us back to the pandemic. Pandemic.
Yeah.
It was one of the saddest shows I'd ever done. I'm sure, Sean, you know Brian Fritz.
I do.
I'm at Brian Fritz's office doing a show, and he brings a guy in who just put his life savings into a restaurant at right, was it like 13th and Chestnut, right? Spent it all, okay? And the pandemic goes down, all those things, and he's got no workforce, okay? Yeah. And there was no visas for people who work at restaurants. Like, in other words, jobs that Americans don't. Why aren't we creating? Why are we forcing people to work illegally? Right?
Well, it
also makes criminals out of a lot of these companies.
Well, that's it. I mean, look here, Joe, you hit the nail on the head. Listen, it was actually under Reagan when the first guest worker program was created that the Democrats blocked because the unions were against it. So, this is a us issue. It's not a Republican issue. It's not a Democrat issue. But until we only talk about the effects of immigration policy, if Trump wants to go and round up everybody who doesn't have status, whoever's a criminal alien, whoever's not listened to a final order of removal, that's fine. But you can't just deal with the effects if you don't deal with the cause. And until we create an actual legal mechanism for people to be here to do low-skilled jobs, like 15% of healthcare, home healthcare, is done by people without status. The people we trust, our parents, our grandparents to, the elderly, those that deserve our most respect in society, are the ones that don't have status.
Right. And by the way, John, you talk about unions, right? Listen to this. Sean smiled a little bit when you said that. I do the labor show, right?
Yep.
I just got off the phone. I've been doing it for 10 years, even before you were on the program. And the immigrants are not taking jobs from our labor unions, okay?
Well, in fact, the unions have gone 180 on this too. Listen, they've woken up. They want to have these people as members. So
exactly, we're organizing them, and it's such an amazing conversation. The reason Republicans want them is because they want. Republicans are pro-business. They're pro-commerce. They want to be able to hire individuals.
Well, they were. Well,
I can frame this discussion a little, this part of it, with a quote actually, and this is from Reagan on his last day in office. His last public speech was about immigration, and I just want this to sink in. I think it will frame a lot of what we'll talk about. But this is what Reagan said. He said, "You can go to live in France, but you cannot become a Frenchman. You can go to live in Germany or Turkey or Japan, but you cannot become a German or Turk or Japanese. But anyone from any corner of the earth can come to live in America and become an American. We lead the world because unique among nations, we draw our people, our strength from every country and from every corner of the world. And by doing so, we continuously renew and enrich our nation. While other countries cling to the stale past, here in America we breathe life into dreams. We create the future, and the world follows us into tomorrow. Thanks to every new wave of arrivals in this land of opportunity, we are a nation forever young, forever bursting with energy and new ideas, always on the cutting edge, always leading the world to the next frontier. This quality is vital to our future as a nation. If we ever close the door to new Americans, our leadership in the world would soon be lost."
Absolutely.
Somewhat prophetic.
Yeah, and like you look at this and we say cling to the stale path, make America great again, pushing away from NATO, bringing in isolationism. And Reagan is like the patron saint of the GOP right now.
Right.
And like his very core,
when they look at him through rose-colored glasses and they selectively quote what they want to quote.
But at the end of the day, his administration was the last one that really tried to push it. So we've gotten to this point where power is now galvanized through fear.
Yep.
And I will say this for the Trump administration, and this is something I think in 20 years, like lawyers will look back on and be amazed with. But what is at its very core, Sean, the purpose of a law is to change behavior.
Yeah.
Now, Trump doesn't actually go through the process of making laws. He throws these sledgehammers at existing regulations, changes people's behavior, and then allows the courts to pull it back.
Right.
It's almost like the disrespect for the law and the aggressive nature of the policy changes is more effective than going through the rulemaking process.
Right.
Trump has the Senate and Congress. If he really wanted draconian immigration policy, he could probably get it through.
No doubt. I mean, listen, we could have had the bill passed last or 2 years ago if it. I think you're getting to an important thing where you talk about it's been essentially 40 years since we've had confrontation. It's a political wedge.
Yeah.
If they wanted to solve this, Democrats could have done it. Republicans could have done this. One of the things that I think, there's a lot of talk about funding immigration and funding ICE and funding DHS. I think one of the things that I think is lost in this entire argument and entire thing is making sure we have the infrastructure to deal with these things. Judges. One of the things that I don't know that you run into judicial issues, immigration judges as frequently as maybe somebody who's dealing with individual asylum claims and things like that. But from the outsider's perspective, it seems that we are woefully understaffed to actually deal with the immigration issues from a judicial perspective.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the courts are getting slammed. I mean, like the amount of habeas filings just going through the U.S. Attorney's Office, like they don't even know what to do with them.
Right.
Like, we don't even have enough immigration law judges on the books, even through recruitment. And like, frankly, they're bringing in JAG judges to do these.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, do we know what type of percentages we're dealing with that are actually JAG judges? And
I don't have the current numbers, but I think it's around 25% at this point.
And what about the concern? I don't know if you've experienced this directly, but I get the sense from doing some research that some judges are concerned about issuing rulings and then having that ruling draw the ire of folks in the administration that you're now terminated the next day.
Well, I think that's a little bit tough because there is a judicial union and there's some things there, but they definitely push people on the sidelines. They're definitely looking at like track records. They're definitely seeing who's liberal, not liberal. I mean, look, I think it's a tough place to be a judge. I wouldn't want that job. I think what you're alluding to is the independence of the judiciary branch is slowly eroding the same way that Congress has been a lap boy for the presidential will. And I think it is a very scary proposition. I think, Sean, fundamentally, the rule of law is still in place, but it's in jeopardy. And I think that that's what we all recognize. I think that's what the Supreme Court, frankly, is dealing with too.
Yeah.
It's how do you deal with an administration that at any point could just say, you know what, thanks for your opinion, we're not taking it.
Yeah. And
that's a scary place.
One of the things that's scary, and I think this is what Americans are feeling, is due process. Like, you can't flock the sheep and then tell everybody that every person that's getting, flocked by the hundreds, like, in other words, that there's been a true due process going on and that people aren't getting caught up in this fishnet. And I think that's a big part of the frustration that people just also, let's be real. Listen, I'm a labor guy. And so the comment you made about labor is 100% right. And you got a lot of people. By the way, labor's huge. So in other words, it's not just, like construction, even though that's where I came from, the building trades. But, you have to, people want to know that people are listen, that their rights are being upheld. And when you talk about flocking, taking in and just rounding up and going in crazy places and taking hundreds of people, it gets nuts. And so I think the concern for due process is a big part here. And let's be real, Trump's, the way, just his demeanor and the way he talks, okay? And, like, in other words, some of the stupid things he says, and the way he puts things is insulting to people. And so you throw those cowboy antics out there, and you got a recipe for panic when it comes to a lot of the general public.
I honestly don't know where Trump's ultimate motivation lies on this.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it is the people that he trusts feeding him information. Like the anti-immigration faction, Miller, Noam, this Institute for Justice mantra, they are pushing an agenda that feels almost like Rasputin in nature to me. I think Trump historically has used these visa programs to his benefit for his organization for a very, very, very long time.
Yeah.
When
he married one.
Yeah, he's married two. I mean,
that's right.
The reality is like when Elon Musk was in the president's favor, and there was quotes from Musk like, "I will die on the H-1B hill," and like, it is so important to the economy, and if anything changes, when they had that fallout over the big beautiful bill in the spring, like I'm sitting back watching with popcorn because it was like hilarious. But I was saying to myself, oh man, the business immigration community is in trouble.
Yeah.
We were in trouble because there wasn't that loud balancing voice.
Yeah.
Like you've seen it. Now, I think we have to take there's a really good example of how this all plays out in the contradictions. And I can actually give you we talk a lot about unintended consequences.
Mm-hmm.
There's actually been an unintended benefit of some of these Trump policies and activities that if you let me play it out for you, you might find interesting. All right. So did you guys heard about that whole thing at the Georgia battery plant?
Yep.
Okay. So just for the listeners, Hyundai invests $7.8 billion in a new battery plant in Georgia during the Biden administration. It is touted by the Republican administration in Georgia as like an amazing opportunity to create well over 100 high-tech, high-skilled jobs to lessen our reliance on overseas material and supplies for battery construction for the burgeoning EV market.
Mm-hmm.
And this is exactly what Trump wants, right? They want, this foreign investment. They want the job creation. They want the manufacturing in the United States. So you're saying to yourself, this is cool. This is going to work. Now, one of the subcontractors was abusing immigration law, and an investigation was started under the Biden administration, and it was bad. Like I can go into detail if you want over the technicalities of the visas and the way they're abused, but let's just say they were not good actors. So the Department of Justice goes and ultimately, with Department of Homeland Security, obtains a judicial warrant for a raid on this subsidiary location within the park where the batteries are being produced.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so they go and do the raid. They go to this one little subsidiary. The warrant is just for this one location. They go there. They knock on the door. Everybody runs out the back. It's pure pandemonium. That gives them probable cause to search the entire campus. It just so happens there's 500 Koreans there on intercompany transferee visas and visitor visas for like the purposes of training workers and getting people up to snuff. Anyway, technically speaking, you're not here at that time allowed to be here as a visitor to give training. You need a work visa for that. The fraction within the administration that was immigration hawks, rather than saying, okay, you're legally here, you have status to be here, we're going to round you all up and put you in detention for 5 days. These are Korean business people. We're putting you all in detention for 5 days, and then we're deporting you back to Korea. Like, the messaging and the fallout from this was absurd. Like,
tone deaf. Yeah.
I mean, Korea had already pledged to invest billions and billions of dollars. Here in Philadelphia, our shipbuilding yard is now Korean.
It
Like,
is.
we are relying on them for a lot of jobs in Philly. They've actually proposed to make huge expansions to the shipbuilding operations. We got cruise ships coming into Philadelphia for the first time in decades.
Yep.
We got all this good momentum. A lot of it's driven by foreign direct investment. What's the Koreans' reaction to this? We're not giving you any more money. We're not coming there. So what does the administration do? They have to go on a sorry tour of Asia to like apologize in October for all these things that have happened. They create this special bureau for Koreans to come to the U.S. and they end up changing the regulations. It went way under the radar, changing the regulations so that now visitors can come to give training in technology that Americans are not used to doing.
Interesting.
So here's the thing
Is
about
that only on the L1 visas, the
this is
intercompany?
they can come as visitors now.
Wow.
A huge change and very positive for foreign direct investment.
It would be one thing if they let the L1 visas just do that.
The L's could always do it, but it was always expensive and time consuming to get the L. The visitor visa, you can just pop over. But they had, as an acquiesce to the trouble that they created and the changing sentiment, they widened the permissible activity of a visitor for the first time in like many, many, many years. It's been expanded.
Interesting.
This would be like big news, but because we get so much information overload, nobody noticed.
It's like, when we were kids, we could drink out of the hose. This is like drinking out of a fire hydrant.
That's like 7 fire hydrants, and they're coming at you in each direction. Now, this is indicative, though, of what I think we can bear to be hopeful. And this is something that we have to understand as a country. Again, you have to respect on some level that Trump was voted in on a mandate to do something about immigration. Whether it's right, wrong, misconceived, like that is something that he feels his constituents and the majority of voting Americans, I'm not going to say American, the majority of voting Americans want it. But the reality is when there is enough outcry, when there is enough pressure, even this administration will change its behavior. And you can see that throughout numerous instances with this administration. It's not only the court's responsibility to pull back the behavior of the administration, it's also the people. And I mean, look, I know this is about employers, but what's happening or happened in Minnesota and the reaction is almost like a furthering of this theme that we saw in Georgia. At some point, people say enough is enough. And what happens? Christie's gone. Those ICE agents are moved. Today, they announced that they're moving 700 ICE agents out of Minnesota.
Out of Minnesota.
And, it's the change. It's the outcry and the change that will dictate the administration. They do respond. It's just harder. And I guess I know, I think we have a break in a minute, but I'll leave you with this. It's like sometimes, and I would never wish this upon the country, but sometimes something breaking leads to positive change.
Yeah.
And if we finally get immigration reform out of all of this chaos, then it's worth it. Sort of like the crappy Sixers season last year leading to VJ Edgecombe. You got to go to the bottom to come back up. And man, do I love my Valdez.
Wait a second here. Listen to that segue. You hear that? Who's
John's a huge Sixers guy. I love it.
Huge Sixers fan.
Well, it's funny. We're going to take a quick break. You're listening to Top Lawyer with Sean Quinn. We have Jonathan Grode as our guest on the program. When we come back, we're going to talk a little sports, and then I'd like to also get into a little bit about some of the employers and some of the issues that are going in that direction. We're going to have more with Top Lawyer with Sean Quinn in just a minute.
Suffering a personal injury as a result of another's negligence, such as a motor vehicle accident, a slip or trip and fall, a workplace injury, a product liability matter, a medical malpractice, or nursing home neglect can be a devastating experience that can turn your life upside down. At the Quinn Law Group, founding partner Sean Quinn utilizes his extensive experience as one of Philadelphia and New Jersey's premier personal injury and trial attorneys every day to recover millions and seek justice justice for his clients injured in matters just like these. If you, a loved one, or someone you know has been injured as a result of someone else's negligence, or if someone you know was the victim in a wrongful death matter, contact Sean Quinn of the Quinn Law Group now at QuinnLawyers.com or call 877-659-6070. That's QuinnLawyers.com or 877-659-6070 and get justice and the recovery you deserve.
Joe Buck and John Smoltz welcoming you back to the City Center Convenience Mart. Well, John, the stage is set for the final transaction.
That's right, Joe. Heather's moment has arrived, and you just hope all that training pays off.
Heather lays down her purchase, but Randy rings it up as slowly as he can.
He is a wily veteran.
It gives Heather's eyes the chance to wander.
Uh-oh.
Yep, she's looking at the cigarettes.
There's nothing good back there. Quit now, and in 5 years, your odds of getting certain cancers drop 50%.
Meanwhile, Randy's stone-faced. He's giving nothing away. He just stands there, wetting his cashier's finger on that sponge.
Heather toes the rubber.
Here we go. Heather's arm is in motion. But instead of pointing at the back wall, she just grabs the gum off the counter.
That's a slick move.
Heather back. She is out of there. Even Randy tips his cap to Heather. Stand Up to Cancer and Rally wants you to reduce your risk for cancer.
Go to takeahealthystand.org.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Top Lawyer with Sean Quinn. Our guest is Jonathan Grode of the law firm of Green and Spiegel, a top immigration attorney. He's the managing partner, the Philadelphia U.S. headquarters. Really an interesting conversation. One of the things, we usually talk about some sports at the beginning of the show, so we're going to touch on it now.
John's a pro. He teased it right before the break.
He did tease it. I don't like when anybody teases or segues better than me.
Oh, sorry, Joe.
But I took notes. It was a good one. So it's funny you mentioned Edgecombe, right? Because we could have took him or somebody. I forget who it was. But
Ace Bailey.
What's that?
Kid from Rutgers. Ace Bailey, the kid from Rutgers.
Yeah. And we, for once, we took the right guy.
Yeah.
And so,
we didn't pull a Markelle Fultz, is what you're saying?
Or a Ben Simmons, two individuals that game.
I think was the right pick.
I think Markelle and Ben are. When I saw Markelle Fultz the first day, his first game in shoot around, and he had this hoodie on and his head's down. It's like the guy doesn't have the body language of a winner.
Yeah.
Ben Simmons, we can get into it, but I really blame his agent for trying to make him like the movement of player power, and instead of recognizing that he had some issues going on. Anyway, VJ, he's a real one. That guy's a real one. He's got the attitude. Maxi's like, I'm going to be there at 5 a.m. Valdez is like, I'll see you at 4:45. Like this guy, you see an appreciation. And he has an immigrant story as well, which is a beautiful thing. But you see an appreciation of where you've come from and what you need to do to reach excellence. And I think that like embodies a lot of Philadelphia, because we feel like, very few of us have things handed to us. Like we have to earn it. We have to work for it. And I don't know. I hope they don't do something stupid at the deadline tomorrow and move him for like 1 or 2 years of a potential chip, because to me, Maxey and Edgecombe and like
that's the future.
And we're seeing a better, healthier version of Embiid right now.
Because the roles changed. The role doesn't rest on his shoulder. He's becoming more of like a fulcrum as opposed to he's kind of an ISO guy. And I don't know.
I never liked the offense running through him, right?
Well, it's stagnant. It's slow. You know what I mean? Like, but that 2-man game with Maxey and Embiid is as good as it's ever been.
Maxey's fun, man.
And you hear the team. They're like, the vibes are good. And I think that means a lot. Look, are we going to win a chip this year? No. But am I excited to go to the arena, and I'm excited to watch, and I'm like rooting for these guys? Yeah.
I'm with you there.
At the trade deadline tomorrow, what are you afraid of, John?
I think Morey's like chilled a lot over the past few years, but he was like a very like star hunting kind of GM, historically speaking. You have a big fish out there in Giannis. We have the assets necessary to get that, but I think Giannis and Embiid in the middle is a recipe for disaster. You got two injury-prone guys in their mid-30s at this
Yeah,
point.
it'd be a disaster if they sent our future. It would be a
Because
damn.
it would take Edgecombe in a package.
Well, I think you might get away with keeping Edgecombe if you got George and draft picks and Grimes and Uber. I don't know. You'd have to give away like half the team.
Yeah.
The bottom line is I think we pass on this one, even though it is an intriguing option.
Yep.
I think I'm like cool rolling with what we have. Normally,
but do you think he makes a reactionary move to Harden coming back east?
No, because I don't think unless we catch lightning in a bottle and the stars align and George comes back, we don't have we're not built this year for a deep run.
Right.
So I wouldn't Harden's going to be gone in a year or two anyway. Look, let's face it. Does Harden scare anybody in the playoffs? One of the hardest things for me as a Sixers fan was having to root for that guy when he was here. I am not a Harden fan.
Do you actually think there's an actual chance? Because I was concerned immediately. A 1 in a million chance that Giannis would come here and we'd give up the house for him.
Giannis would come here.
I know he would, but would we do the trade?
Oh, I don't think. Well, me at the beginning of the season, yes.
Yeah, of course.
Yes. Before we knew what we had.
Yeah. I think if Giannis does come here, he's gone as a free agent in 2 years.
Yep. Totally.
What
agree.
a disaster.
Yeah. So,
to me, you got excitement down there. It's I can't even watch Tatum.
I do think you have a little bit of an issue, assuming that Paul George comes back, and that's a whole nother thing to unpack there. I have my own speculations on that one, but assuming Paul George,
let's hope he doesn't.
Yeah, but assuming Paul George does come back, I like Oubre in the starting lineup for his energy and his attitude, and I think he's not as engaged when he comes off the bench. But him and George
he plays defense. I like he plays defense. And he grabs boards.
The problem is they're both really threes, and then it leaves us without a 4. Anyway, so I love
John. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in the mean streets of Abington.
What high school did you go to?
I'm a ghost, baby. Abington High School.
Okay, how about that?
Yeah, and I've been living in the city. I live in South Philly now. So.
Okay, all right. And so, having said that, Sean, we have pitchers and catchers. I'm also interested in the work you do with athletes, and so we're going to segue cool there. But I want to ask first, Sean, what are you thinking? Pitchers and catchers reporting in a couple weeks?
Well, listen, I mean, you know me. I'm the most the biggest Dave Dombrowski hater out there. So I'll just pile on to Dave and say you didn't do enough this offseason. You essentially running it back. Although I did find Rob's interesting angle was saying, well, 25% of the roster has changed since the start of spring training last year. And he actually mentioned Otto Kemp in that answer. So
where's he at? Where's Kemp?
He'll just be on the roster this year. It's just
is that what he meant?
Nonsense. Here's my problem. We have one less pitcher in Ranger Suarez so our starting pitching staff from last year is less than it was a year ago. Now, can Andrew Painter replace him? Time will tell. He's going to get his opportunity. I do like the fact that I'll give Dombo one bit of credit, and that is he's finally giving a pathway to the young guys to play. And eventually you need to do that. So let's see what Justin Crawford is. Let's eventually see what Aiden Miller is. Let's see what Andrew Painter is, because you can't just keep going down the path of only having a bunch of 30-year-olds. And I say this as a 50-year-old, only having 30-somethings run your team.
I think it's a fundamental problem because the choices were not all that great. I mean, look, I think there would have been outcry if Schwarber left.
You had to do those deals.
You had to do those deals. So you were a little bit handcuffed. It reminds me a little bit of the end of the run in the aughts and the early teens where we kind of almost had to do it for the sake of doing it. The only reason why I'm a little bit bullish, I think we do have the closer situation sorted out, which has been an Achilles heel.
It has been.
And I think Wheeler could come back stronger, which is something we missed.
I hope so.
I worry about the consistent offensive production. We have the ability to put up a lot of runs, but I don't think we necessarily have the ingredients for the consistency to do so.
I think we're going to see a better version of Bryce Harper this year.
I do too.
I think Alec Boehm, write it down right now. This is what I'm going to take to the thing. All-star season, contract year. He's going to be a free agent at the end of the season. I think he puts up – he is vastly underrated by the city of Philadelphia, and I think it all comes down to the pouting in the postseason 2 years ago. I think that is something that he's going to have trouble shaking, I think – but when you compare his numbers to top across the third base –
Oh, he's right there.
He's at the top of the class.
Yeah, he's right there. It's interesting. He can pick it now at third. He can. I know this is gonna sound odd, but the one that I was actually upset about was Bader.
So am I.
I was like, that dude's fucking. Excuse me. I was like, that dude is Philly. Sorry. Are we on delay? Are we on delay, Joe?
I hope so. Oh, Jesus.
Say it, Frank.
I'm sorry, but that guy is Philly.
Yeah, there wasn't a guy on the roster that was more Philly than Bader last year.
Oh man, I just loved his energy.
Oh my God. I mean, it reminds me in kind of a lateral way of the Eagles ish. The biggest mistake the Eagles made all last offseason was not signing Mekhi Becton. Okay.
Yeah, it's the same kind of thing.
Same thing. You got a guy who's leaving for not a lot of money.
Yep.
Okay. Becton, by the way, was a bust with the Jets, but he plays guard with us, 6'5", 6'7", 360. And then, of course, football gods, they help us out there by jumping on and get everybody else is hurt but Magada. And we're stuck in there with Sheen or whatever the hell his name is. And now we're a mess. So now instead of having Becton and Lane Johnson, we have Sheen and Fred Johnson on the right, and our offensive coordinator can't stop going right. So the point is
that was
oh my God.
Staying on the Phillies for a second, there are guys out there. So I think here's the one thing I would like to see us do. The X factor is obviously Wheeler returning, right?
Yeah.
We don't that type of injury, it's not a clear path to return.
Right.
It ended Steven Strasburg's career. Thoracic outlet is very real. And while everything we've seen is encouraging, I would like a little bit of security. I would like one more starter out there so that you can move a Taiwan Walker to the pen or as a swing man in the event of health. And listen, there are some low cost options out there. There's a Chris Bassett out there. You could get a pillow deal probably with Zach Gallen, which bring a Philly boy, bring a Eustace kid home. Obviously, my son's a Bishop Eustace kid, so obviously I have an affinity for Zach Gallen. Framber Valdez, as much as I hate Astros, ground ball.
I know.
You know what I mean? Like
he's out there. Why aren't we? I get it. He's a maniac.
Or go get crazy-eyed Max Scherzer for on a 1-year deal for $15 million.
Well, why not? Why would we take
Justin Verlander?
Why
I don't know. I think it's like. Do you think Painter can come up this year and do it?
They're projecting that he's in the rotation.
I mean that in and of itself might be it
might be right.
I start to get worried because it's like 4 years now I've been hearing about this guy coming up.
But I mean, how as much as we have him under contract forever, like Nola was not reliable last year, and we're kidding ourselves if we think it's going to get better with Aaron Nola.
Yeah. Well, anyway, no shortage of intrigue.
It is.
But to get back to your Bader, it just that was my whole point about rambling on about the Eagles. Why the hell wouldn't we take this guy? The whole city loves him. He's a Philly guy. Like I don't think Joe. I don't think it was a matter of that. I think they made a quick. I think early on they would have probably liked to have Bader. And I think Bader's market was much drier than Bader and his agent thought. And they moved quickly to go get Garcia.
That's it.
And because they thought
they feel like they don't need a spot and they want to leave room for Crawford. I get it. I get all of it. It's just, that
I'm with
dude.
you.
I love that guy, man. I mean,
So,
he was.
if we can segue this back to immigration, I remember a couple, and I brought him up deliberately because one, I love Ranger Suarez, but it wasn't that long ago that Ranger had immigration issues and coming in from Venezuela and so how does this manifest itself? These players coming from all these different countries and getting work visas, and where do they fit in the visa system? How does it all work?
So it's interesting. Like, Trump has banned a number of countries from coming to the United States, even Venezuela. There are exceptions for athletes. Trump's a big sports guy. In fact, like Andy Giuliani, who's in the White House, is like running the FIFA World Cup aspect for the White House.
Yeah.
Where it gets a little tricky and where it gets a little fascinating, and this kind of goes to like the mental side of the game, is that whilst we can get players the visas, whilst we can get personnel the visas, spouses, girlfriends, support networks, family members, it's really, really, really hard right now.
Wow.
It's really, really hard. And you got to put yourself in the perspective of some of these kids. Like, think about it if you're a Russian hockey player. You're 19, 20, 21 years old. You don't speak English. You have all the pressure to play and perform, and you can only communicate through a translator. In years past, you'd be able to have your girlfriend come over, your parents. They're not there anymore. They're getting blocked because visitor visas aren't being issued and those exceptions don't apply to them. So, it seems small, but it can actually have like a very dramatic impact. And, obviously because of some of my representation, things like that, I can't get into any specifics, but it's a prevalent thing across all of the leagues.
Well, John, you just blew the F-bomb on air. You might as well just let that one go.
I only started to say it.
It wasn't a full. There was no K at the end, John.
There was no K. There was no K.
Jesus.
There was no K.
So it's amazing. So you represent employers, and it's amazing to me because we see it, and it's awesome really to have you back on the show because you represent everything that represents doing it the right way, and you have a lot of, we talk about a lot of issues we have, and this is one of the reasons I want these immigration, new standards, because you have American companies, at the Home Depot recruiting cats from coming over, and they're working in back alleys with no safety,
Yeah.
And those are the companies I got the problem with, and so if you want to lock somebody up,
or the ones that hire an immigrant workforce, knowing full well that they're not here legally, and then there was that
calling on them,
called the police,
so they don't have to pay them,
to not pay them.
Well, so this is like fundamentally the issue, and you might find this fascinating, Joe, because of your background, but Pennsylvania actually has an E-Verify state law for the construction industry. And you can actually lose your business license if you don't enroll in E-Verify as a construction company, which is meant to curtail against a lot of what you have. So essentially what's happening is because we don't have a legal mechanism for these people to be here, and the employers don't have a legal mechanism to employ them, they have to do it without status. That's a business decision that a lot of businesses make. Okay, put that in one bucket over there. Yeah. But what that does, and this is the scary part, and this is to your point, it creates an impetus for abuse because the employers know that there's no consequences for their behavior. That's where I think a lot of the motivation behind the E-Verify law exists. Now, to me, again, I think you are not addressing the cause and you're only dealing with the effect. Right. So we're not solving for X. We're just like adding something on to Y. And that to me is where we're failing as a community. But what I would love is for a mechanism for these people to be here, to have status, to pay taxes. somebody else's social security number but their own,
Right.
to be able to travel back to their home country, to feel like they have a life and a member of society. These are people of our community. And at the same time, free up ICE to actually enforce the bad actors. Free them up to have more space. Everybody says abolish ICE. I think what they want to do is abolish ICE policy. What people don't realize is ICE actually serves a vital function in society.
They do.
They're the ones going after the terrorist cells. They're the ones that are going after human trafficking, counterfeit goods. I mean, we need to let them do their core mission. We got to let them do their core mission. And what's interesting is you're seeing this play out across the country. Where you're seeing it play out is places like the farms in Nebraska, the meat packing facilities in Michigan, where employers knowingly have made a business decision to have people without status on staff because otherwise they wouldn't function.
Well,
Right.
it's
They
a great
they don't even have that contingency plan because if they those workers, they're essentially out of business.
So what are they doing? They're going to their congressional representatives and asking them to talk to the administration about not including inspections in those places as part of the ICE agenda, rather than saying, "Oi, you got to change the rules."
Yeah.
I think this one will really bring it home. Pennsylvania is the largest mushroom producer in the entire United States. You go to Kennett Square, Chester County, like it is mushrooms.
Yep.
A lot of people that work in Kennett Square are on TPS, temporary protective status. Temporary protective status is something that has existed for a very long time. It's if there's trouble in your home country, you can remain in the U.S. till that trouble clears up. There are 1.5 million people with legal work authorization in the United States on TPS. Trump wants to end all of it.
Yep.
Can you imagine if a company said they're laying off 1.5 million people? Can you imagine what the response would be from the markets if we said we lost 1.5 million jobs? Now, if you take it and you say there's employers in southeastern Pennsylvania that are using TPS to supplement the workforce. Some employers have a third of their workforce on TPS. If they lose these people, production is going to diminish. And what will rise? Costs.
Nice.
And what this administration says is we are trying to curtail the rising costs. And if that doesn't indicate the dichotomy, or as you put it, the bipolar nature of this administration.
Yeah. You can't connect those dots.
That hits home.
Yep.
Because the reality is you can offer $50 an hour, and an American is not going to spend 10 hours a day in a mushroom hut.
No chance.
It's just not happening.
I remember seeing that cattle rancher out in Idaho who's very outspoken or whatever it is. And he's like, I put up signs. I put up ads. He goes, I have to bring in all of my workers from Mexico on these visas. And he goes, and we have to pay really high rates and really high prices to do it the right way. And he's a very much outspoken, like, we need immigration reform in this country. We need to give pathways. And I've always said, and I know part of the fight is, whether there's a pathway to citizenship that's tied to these things. I would love to see, some employer sponsored ability. So if you got this guy who's been working with you for 10 years, have you go as the certified, this guy's of good moral character. And
we had something like that in 2001. To your point, 3 weeks ago, I got a call on a Saturday from a guy who was frantic, landscaper. And he says, I got this guy, he was just picked up by ICE. Yeah. He's in detention. Can you help? And he's like going on about how he's a great guy and how he doesn't deserve this. And then he says to me, when I voted for Trump, I didn't vote for this. I didn't think he was going to take the good people.
Yeah.
Who's deciding who's good and who's bad? Who's deciding if unstatus or non-status is right or wrong?
Well, what they're saying is that anybody who's undocumented is a criminal.
Exactly.
So, and so that's what
and he's banging.
Well, that's it. But they're not focused on undocumented. They're focused on TPS. They're focused on
everybody.
I mean, listen, we have people getting picked up at naturalization ceremonies.
Yes.
I mean, they are the definition of doing it the right way.
So those people, just so you know, just to clarify, they're just not being allowed to naturalize. But we are seeing that at green card interviews. People that have gone through the whole mechanism and have gotten right to the end, and the rug is being pulled out from underneath.
And it takes such a long time. I can't think of anything that's more emotional than a naturalization.
Oh, it's a beautiful thing.
It's just a beautiful thing. I mean, people, what we take for granted is the biggest moment of their life. We only got a minute left, Joe.
Yeah, we'll have John tell a little bit about how people can reach you, John.
Jonathan Grode. I'm the managing partner of Green and Spiegel, headquartered in Philadelphia. You can go to www.gands-us.com. That's GANDS-us.com.
Fantastic. And our host, Sean Quinn, contact information.
Yeah, Joe, great show. John, appreciate you jumping on today.
It was fun.
Sorry we had to have Joe with us. But you can always get us at quinnlawyers.com, on all the socials, on our website, and soon we will launch our quinnwins.com as well. So I appreciate everybody hopping on today, and as always, go Sixers, go Birds, go Phils. Let's just go.
Might as well throw the Flyers in. Listen, I want everybody for tuning in to Top Lawyer with Sean Quinn. Of course, we want to thank Jonathan Grode for being our guest. Fantastic broadcast. And, of course, I want to thank Sean Quinn, our host. On behalf of everybody on our panel, I'm Joe Doherty. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Hey, can you blow up some balloons for Jack's party?
I can't.